Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Martin, and I would like to welcome you to my workshop on why you need ritual and magic in your life. I am the founder and owner of Intuitive Resources. Give you a little bit of background about me. I got into this more natural healing, inspirational work in my late 20s. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. My son had a severe autoimmune disorder that nobody could help me with. And so I had to figure out what to do. And so I began studying under an amazing teacher. By the time my son was 2 years old, you would not recognize all of the issues that he had been through. I was able to become a wellness counselor. I do live blood cell analysis where I can take a drop of blood and tell you what's happening in your body. I also love to do iridology, where you take a picture of your eye. It's actually a map, and I can tell everything that's happening within your body, not only physically, but also emotionally. I am an EFT practitioner. I'm certified in energy healing and energy medicine. I'm also a life coach and an EQ coach, and a prayer practitioner, and a law of attraction coach practitioner, and a master Wiccan. And what I determined through going through all of these different certifications is that there's really one true core thing that goes through all of us is a desire to heal and a desire to know something more divine. And I think there are physical ways that we do that, and then there are some spiritual ways in which we do that. And so my mission is to help bring you tools, to bring you resources, to bring you new methods to try in order to heal what needs to be healed in your life. Maybe that's something physical, or maybe it's something spiritual. And so I'd like to provide you with different tools. One of those being rituals. Rituals to me, ceremony, these are these things that are extremely important in your life. Let's start first. I think a little bit more on the global scale would be helpful. When you look at a ritual that we all have, or we can pretty much all participate in, you see across when there's presidents that are inaugurated, popes, you see the royal weddings. There's almost always a New Year's celebration. May not be on the same day for everybody, but we tend to have that across cultures in common, a New Year's celebration. If there's a big funeral of somebody on the global scale, that you'll usually see something, televised across everywhere. Or something a little bit more simple as sporting events, the World Cup, the Super Bowl, those types of events that bring us together on a global scale. They have their own different forms of ritual with them. And then I look at that, that's like the bigger picture, and then we bring it down and we want to come into just a little bit more globally thinking about rituals around the world. And I say that because I'm from the US. I think wherever you're from, we all tend to just look at it from like our myopic viewpoint. And what I would like for us to do is spend a little bit of time thinking about rituals. Like it's a common theme. It doesn't matter where you're from. Okay. So my first example here is in Bolivia. They actually bake money into their baked goods, which I thought was really cool. So on New Year's, whoever gets that baked good with the money is going to be blessed with good fortune for the coming year. If you go to Cambodia, there are water blessings that are performed as a traditional Buddhist practice that are quite lovely. There's a town in Italy, Ivrea, I might pronounce that wrong. I thought this was really fascinating. In order to remember the rebellion of the commoners, they do a 3-day orange throwing tournament or battle every year in order to remind everybody of that. And that's something that they do. In Guatemala, newlyweds have a tradition where when they're back, the mother-in-law will actually break a ceramic bell that's filled with grains. And that is to symbolize bringing prosperity into the marriage. In Japan, this is over a 1,200-year tradition. At 20 years old, you get dressed in traditional attire, you attend a beautiful ceremony, and you have this large celebration, and you are now recognized that you were able to vote and to drink. And then the last one, and the truth is, guys, there are millions, of different rituals. I just wanted for us to have this perspective of that each we are all connected by this desire to have ritual. But in Fiji, the man presents his father-in-law or potential father-in-law the tooth of a whale in order to be considered worthy of marrying his daughter. So then let's take it from there. This thing that we do on a global scale, we all have these rituals that we participate in. And let's take it down into what I would consider to be, instead of like with your group, where you live, that type of thing, taking it down to your family rituals. There's usually, if you start doing some research, you can see changing of the seasons. People will do an honoring of a deity. Mourning, death rituals, Day of the Dead, doing altars, doing different things, doing funerals. Those can be different for each family. Weddings, another one that's a common thread through a lot of us, but done very differently. I don't know if any of you watching this, like me, joined a sorority or a fraternity. The ritual component that came with that, I personally was not prepared for. My first time showing up to a sorority ritual, I almost passed out of fear. I didn't know what was happening, but it was filled with these rituals that you do in order to connect and belong and feel like you're now part of the sisterhood. Something else that you can look at, national anthems. Most countries will have them. Think about every sporting event, when everybody's singing together, there's a certain feeling, a palpableness that goes through. And when everybody says the O at the same time, there's something really beautiful about that bonding of that ritual. Birth announcements, that's something that we tend to do here in the U.S. Baby showers, right? There's coming of age rituals that we can do. Each religion maybe has a different one, depending on what age you are. If you turn, when you turn 13, when you turn 18, or when you turn 21 and you can suddenly drink. There's graduations, there's birthdays, we have Christmas. I'm not sure any family does it exactly the same. And then I put this one last, I put gender reveals, because this is actually a ritual that, if you really pay attention over the last 10 years, has been born while we're all watching it. If you really go back and look, I know this was not a thing when I was having kids 17 years ago. And now that is a thing. There's this big reveal, either you're announcing to the family that you're having a kid, or you're doing what's the gender, and there's no one that's really the same, whether it be, hitting something with a baseball bat, whether it's doing balloons, the possibilities are quite fun to watch. And that is a ritual that you can sort of see being born right before your eyes. So we look at all of these things that we do in our family unit, in our, the bigger collective, and then on the global scale. And these rituals, these things that we do, why? Connection with family, right? It's a connection with a higher power. It's a connection to our history. There's a specialness to doing that. I think about several rituals, things that I've attended, even going to church, things, you don't want to go sometimes. I'd rather stay home. I'd rather, I've got these 5 things to do. I'd rather just sleep, whatever the case may be. Every time you go, there's this connection piece that you have, and you feel special that you did this. You have this in common with this group. Gives you security, continuity. You know what's coming. You know what's going to happen every year. You know what's going to happen every time you do it. It also marks time, major events. So you can think back to the different rituals that you've done. We're thinking birthdays and many other things. It helps us in some of the more spiritual rituals that we can do in exploring meaning. When we're having a funeral or a wedding, or when we're doing mass, or when we're doing, whatever the ritual is that you're participating in, it gives you an opportunity to explore meaning. What does it mean that I'm here? What does it mean that I'm participating in this? And then the last thing here is that it gives you confidence in the future. You, by knowing what you've been through and knowing that you'll do this ritual again, you have confidence in it. There's a sense of security and knowing what will be coming. which is important. And that's why rituals play an extremely important part in our life experience. And it is my contention that when ritual is done with sacred intention, it has the genuine power to transform your life. Okay, so when I say it's going to transform your life, let's look at it in the terms of these feelings you get when you're doing the rituals and why we want to bring that into your everyday. Okay, so we're talking about the connection that we get. We're talking about the meaning that we get. So my favorite example is something that I did. I went to a Unitarian church in high school, and every Christmas Eve, we would come together and do an evening service where there was absolutely nothing religious, about the experience. It was sharing in different religions. We would talk about what other religions would do. But at the end, we would do candlelight. All the lights would go off. Everybody would light candles. And then everybody would sing these Christmas songs. And then we all would do something. We would all bring mittens, scarves, jackets to the mitten tree is what we called it, and put them on the tree. So the tree would just be covered, sometimes toppling over. And that would be donated that night to the homeless. And so that right there is, I look at that feeling. What did I get out of that? So I felt connected to the people who were there. It felt very special. I felt connected to something bigger than me. I could feel it coursing through us, even though at that time I was very disconnected spiritually. That was not what I was there for, but I felt it. It was palpable. And so I would like to bring that feeling, that connection piece, that connection to something bigger, that connection for myself into the everyday. And so as I started exploring how to make that happen, you can meditate, you can do certain things. I wanted there to be this ritualistic component. I fell into offering for my friends. I have a group of woo-woos. If you don't have a group of woo-woos, I highly recommend it, where we would offer, for a while, everybody would pick a different topic that week, and we would go about, teaching it to each other and doing something, unique, something in energy work, something in the spiritual realm. And we were close to Halloween, and somebody said, I've always wanted to know how to do a spell. And I said, yeah, me too. I've always felt pretty called to that. I know nothing about it. I'll volunteer. And so I put this together. I bought a single book, which turned into probably 50, and I started joining all sorts of things. And I realized all of my training of bringing prayer into my world, bringing, just different ritual was all the same as doing the spell. So I want to bring this table up and show you that ritual is the exact same thing as a thought through prayer and a spell. And so what I'm saying to you is there could be something else that you participate in, however you choose to bring ritual into your life. As long as you're following the same overview of steps, it's going to bring the same intention into your experience. So any ritual that you see, any or experience is, if you go to mass or you go whatever you go to, wedding, funeral, there's going to be an opening. There's usually some sort of connection to a higher power. Then there's some sort of symbolic gesture, exchanging of rings, taking communion, whatever that might be. Then there's gratitude, and then there's a close. And so when you're doing a prayer, there is a step number one, there's a recognition of a higher power. That looks different. We all think we know what that looks like. That's not that it has to look a certain way. It's just recognizing in something bigger. Then there's a unification. Step number two is to say, if we all are one with this, then I am one with this. Then I am one with divine source. And then there's a realization, which is sort of a symbolic gesture. You're asking for something, you're trying to manifest something, whatever that looks like, that's your realization. And then you have appreciation. I'm so appreciative that you're bringing this, that this is coming into my life experience, and I'm releasing it into divine source and knowing that it is done. We're done. Now, look at the components of a spell. In a spell, the opening is to close the circle. we're closing that, we're setting that intention so that while we're in this circle, it is sacred. That's the recognition. That's the connection piece, right? We're connecting it into the oneness. Step number 2, there's an invocation, no different than the unification, connecting with divine source. We are connecting with the divine power, with Mother Earth. And then step number 3, we're casting the spell. It's a manifestation tool. We're looking to manifest something, and so therefore it's a realization. And then there's thankfulness. I used gratitude, appreciation, and thankfulness to have different words, but they're all gratitude, right? And then at the end, we're releasing it. We're opening the circle, finishing that ritual, and so that way we know that there's an end. So they're really all the exact same. So bringing that ritual component into our daily life. How can you live your life like a daily ritual, a daily prayer? Okay. That's going to look different for each and every one of us. This tends to be sort of, I would say, my go-to. It's just core sister me. I can't help it. I love my day to be very ritual. Anytime I want to do something, anytime I'm worried about something, I'm creating a divine container, a sacred container to make that happen. You may not want that, and that's okay. That's I just want you to bring some ritual into your daily life. So let's look at a couple of options for you to integrate that. This is the picture. I'm looking at it now. It's already changed. I tend to change my altars probably once a month. Every full moon when I am releasing, I tend to also make some changes on my altar. I have several altars. I do one this is the one that you're looking at, is here with me in my office. I tend to have one that I do with my daily grounding group. Then I have one for myself and what I'm looking to manifest. And then I have another one that's more work related. And so, depending on which ones I'm setting my intentions for, I like to do that before I do anything. I'm setting great intentions, setting it with ritual, asking for this help, following my steps in order to have that experience, more meaningful experience in my day-to-day life. You can incorporate doing, a morning and evening ritual. You can do a meditation. You can do what I mean to say is like in the morning to wake up, have a small little ritual that you do and maybe one before bed. That could be something easy that you do. You can incorporate a lovely meditation practice. You can do something during meals. One of the favorite things that I was taught and I love to do. My kids don't really love to sit there and pray, right? They're teenagers. That's not their thing. We're not in the more, traditional religious things. So our prayers tend to follow the other format that I was talking to you about. And my kids are just they don't feel it. And so that's okay. I can do it for myself. But the one thing that we've agreed to is that we're going to put good energy and gratitude into our meals. And so we rub our hands, kind of shake the energy off and put them around our plate, whatever we're holding. And just for 2 seconds, we just hold that positive intention and put it into the plate and put it into the food. Even if you see us in a restaurant, you'll see our hands just do a little, and then that's all we do. We just pause for 2 seconds. Thank you. And that's all that has to be. That's all my kids want to do right now. And I'm okay with that, right? Could also do something for your bath or self-care, turning that into a very ritual experience for you. Very loving and tender for yourself. Not just doing it out of, okay, I need to do these things in order to, look a certain way for somebody else. I'm choosing my self-care as a way to honor myself. You can do something when it comes to ending relationships. One of my favorite things to do when there's a breakup, when there's an end, is to do a cord cutting ceremony. It can be simple, it can be complicated depending on the type of relationship, but having something that symbolically also cuts the ties, helps you move forward, can be a very beautiful thing. There's different celebrations. You might want to do birthdays. You could do, creating some sort of ritual. And I say that we were going through some of our old videos every year. And there are certain things that we do that are the same every year. Every year you wake up even though we play jokes and tell each other, oh, we're not going to decorate. Every year on your birthday, you wake up, you have a table, has tablecloth, has these two bears that will sing to you, and usually some balloons and some decorations up there. We kind of go back and forth, but there's always those birthday bears on there. And you can see every year, that's the first things my kids will even go to. Even though, 17 years later now, my kids are still, still pulling those bears out, trying to figure them out. If the batteries died, or like there's one that has a fan, and they love it. It's something, it brings about that feeling of joy and feeling special. You can do a ritual around manifesting different things. My favorite one, which got me started on doing some of these things in my daily life, was a career ritual. You can do different ones for your home life, for love. You name it. There's a way to manifest that. There is rituals that you can do for clearing energy. You can just every night before you go to bed do a small energy clearing thing, taking off the energy, shaking it off so you're not bringing that into bed and bringing that into your dreams. And then the last one that I have on here is before meetings, before work. That can be a game changer. A couple of things I'll say for how I incorporated this for me. I was in a role where I also was being told to do sales, and I was not. If you had told me I would be doing anything in sales, I probably would have cried, and I did cry when they asked me to do sales. And one of the ways in which I got myself through it, and through the fear of having to have some of these conversations and asking people for deals, I created a ritual. And I created a little crystal grid, and I would do crystals for my prospective clients, and I would do this ritual. And lo and behold, I was quite successful. And everybody, even on our sales meetings, people would like send me notes or call me, hey, can I get a crystal on that grid? Or one time there was a person that I worked with where we really struggled with each other. We clearly had a contract with each other, to push each other. And I really did not care to work with this person. They really upset me and hurt me frequently. And I created a ritual and would put a scent on and light this candle and do this ritual every day. And so before every meeting that this person and I shared, I would do this ritual, and I could just bring the scent up to my nose, and every time I would calm down. And everything transformed. I worked on my energy, and I no longer matched that person's energy, and the relationship transformed. So those are the ways in why I think bringing some of these rituals, bringing some of this sacredness into your daily life can be life-changing. All right, so those are some of the wins. Let's have some ideas for the how. What are some things that you can bring into your daily life to help you bring a little bit more ritual and sacredness? So the first, and we are going to practice a couple of these ideas, I'm going to teach you how to call yourself home. There's this moment where, we've all heard it now. Everybody talks about all you have is right now. And energetically, we are constantly, if you're not being mindful of your energy, you're in the present, you're in the past, you're thinking about things that you have coming up, or things that you hate that happened before, whatever the case may be. And when you are starting your ritual, whatever ritual I teach anybody, I have you call yourself home. Come bring yourself fully present into your body right here, right now. So we'll practice that one. You can do some different types of energy healing. You can work with the different chakras in your body. You can work with just different energy centers. I find it to be a beautiful way to keep this energy moving through you. There's a grounding exercise. There's many different ways that you can do it. I find it to be imperative for any ritual work that you're going to do, whether that's just meditating, whether it's doing a full ritual, whether it's just meditating, whether it's going to a meeting. If you can be grounded and you can feel that safety that comes with being grounded, you will respond better, you'll feel better, everything will flow better. You can cast spells. You can bring in a practice, which I like to do, of calling in the different elements. You can create crystal grids for different things. I have one for my money. I have one for relationships. I have one for my family. I have one for work. I like to work with those different things because I am creative, but they give me a tangible physical practice to bring that into the physical. That you can do different manifesting work. You can do one of my ritual kits. I like to call them alchemy kits, where you do a workbook where you do something where you're doing that on a daily basis. Another idea is automatic writing. I absolutely love the concept of waking up in the morning before you turn on your phone, before you turn on anything except for maybe a little light. You just turn over and write down a couple of pages. Write down even just a couple of paragraphs. What are the things that start to flow through you before you're fully into your world, before you get back into your body? Let your higher self channel through you and write down some things. You'd be really surprised at some of the inspiration that will come through, or how much you can even just remember your dreams. And last but not least, meditation, which doesn't have to be hard. It can just be listening to a guided meditation. It can be just practicing, focusing on your breath, knowing that thoughts may turn and go, but you will come back into center the more you practice. The way I look at it, because sometimes people really have a hard time with that, all of this work that we're doing, anytime you're casting a spell, anytime you're making a request, that's you putting stuff out there to the universe. That's you asking for divine something. Meditation is your way to listen. That's your way to receive. And so in anything that we do, there has to be a balance and a give and a take. And so you need to also make time. If you're going to put the request out, you also need to make the time to listen. Okay? All right, so now we want to focus on embodiment. And that is where, we spend, and all of us do this. I'm guilty of this. I can have a gazillion classes. I can know a lot of information, but sometimes we need to practice it and we need to embody it. And that takes time. There's no, you don't just say, oh, I'm going to do this ritual and then tomorrow everything is fine. You have to do things on a repeated basis. You have to be consistent with them. So, we have to let go of the old training that we have. That even though we are talking about conducting magic and doing things, that things just pop up. Most things take some consistency. So the first thing I want to do is the special practice that I mentioned of calling yourself home. It's very simple, and I would encourage you to use this even if you take nothing else out of this entire workshop. Please take this. Take this, use it as often as you can. Calling yourself home. We are these interdimensional, massive beings of consciousness. I don't believe there's anybody on this planet that actually knows what our divineness looks like, smells like, feels like. We can only imagine. And so you need to make sure that you release all of that and then say, I'm choosing to be fully present in this moment. I'm not going to be out there thinking about all of the worries I have about whether or not I'm going to get this job or whether or not I'm going to have enough money. I'm not going to be, oh my God, I can't believe I said those things. I can't believe I said those things. Right now we are coming home, and we're coming home into these physical containers that are really our divine home, which are just representations of source. That's it. So your full name. Don't overthink this part. I have a lot of people who say, well, my maiden name, my legal name, you know the name that is you. If that is your married name, then use it. Mine's my maiden name. Absolutely. If yours is a stage name, that's okay too. It's the name where I'm connecting with the highest version of myself in this physical form, and I'm calling myself home now. So I will usually take my hands, I open them up, and I call my name out 3 times, and then I bring my hands into my heart saying, come home now. So open your arms, imagine, close your eyes, and I have an image of my soul self, this piece, it's all light energy and it's coming out from all over, but I'm connecting to my highest version of myself, which is also connected into divine source. That is just bright energy coming out of my crown. And so I call my name, Abigail Dawn Martin, Abigail Dawn Martin, Abigail Dawn Martin, come home now. And breathe that in, pull that energy into your heart space. And then you're home. I do that particularly when I get stressed, when I'm anxious, when there's you name it, before you get on a stressful call or before you're about to have an argument with somebody, step in the bathroom for 10 seconds, call yourself home, get fully present, and I promise you, whatever's happening in your life gets better because you're present and you're there and you're ready. All right, next we talk about the grounding. And so this is a little harder to practice embodiment here since we're doing this on a webinar. But one thing that you can do at a bare minimum, you can do the call yourself home and go do it outside. Go call yourself home, go do it outside, go barefoot outside every day for 30 seconds. Longer if you can, but at a minimum 30 seconds, rain or shine, unless of course it's dangerous. Don't be crazy. But if you can step outside with an umbrella, do it. If it's snowing and you can shovel up a patch, you're just standing there and it just takes 10 seconds, whatever you can do. I will go out, put my shoes next to me, step out. I do this, call myself home. Sometimes I like to do a little bit of energy work. I do the connecting heaven and earth, which I have listed on here. And that is a way, when you are wearing shoes all of the time, when you're not walking out on the earth, we're really missing out on that ability to be connected. It takes up all the electrostatic charge. There's a lot of energy that we build up. And so a daily grounding exercise, a daily grounding ritual can really help bring you some just ease and I would say calmness into your day. You could also do singing bowls. I love the toning bowls that you can hit. Get one that, where you feel like you have the most issues. I like to do a heart bowl every morning. I also have something that is called the Now Tonal Therapy System. These are two little speakers and they have different tones. And so you turn them both on. They're not connected to Bluetooth or anything, so there's no distortion. And they will play these sacred frequencies, these different, tones, and they're different each time. And they're just 3 minutes. And so they will bounce, from one to the other. I like to put them on each of my knees, and I use that as just the 3 minutes. I like to go longer for meditation, but sometimes all I have is 3 minutes, and that's enough. So I can call myself home, step outside, sit down with my therapy system, do the tones, and if I can do nothing else, that's a daily ritual that I have. Now, when you do meditation, I mentioned, getting something guided. That's one of my favorite things to do. I think one of the biggest disservices we have is where you think you have to think nothing. I'm not sure that that's really the end goal. I think the intention is to be a conduit and to let things flow through. And so therefore you do have to hear that, you do have to hear, and you do have to see, get those messages or whatever's going on. And it's difficult to do that if everything that comes in, you're like, no, I can't have any thought. I think that's distracting. And so what you can do is instead focus on your breath work. So my favorite thing to do is just to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, let go for 4, hold for 4, and then breathe in for 4. So it's just the 4s. You can change the numbers. That part's not as important, in terms of the intention. But pick the number, and then that way you do have something to focus on, because you do have to train your mind a little bit as you're putting in your meditation practice. We are overstimulated. We have a ton of social media, so your mind might start playing some of those things. Those are not the helpful things to be listening for, and so breath work can help you get out of that. And then I highly recommend following along and doing some energy work called Connecting Heaven and Earth, where you are taking your hands and and there's a whole exercise for it. It's an easy YouTube search, putting one hand to the heavens and one hand to the earth and breathing out and then bringing in and then doing it the other way until you bring that energy in. And, we are with the intention. One of the things I like about this doing the connecting heaven and earth is we are these dualistic beings, right? We've got the masculine, the feminine, the spiritual, the physical, and we are wanting to be in this place of integration. And I think that's where ritual, and that's where magic, those are those things, they bring us into that place of integration. All right, now, one of my most favorite things, and this is what for me shifted my meditative experience, shifted my rituals, is understanding how the elements play a factor. You can look at so many different, I guess, cultures and how they use the elements. This is not, something new or unique. This is something that's spread across many different societies. But what I like is having a ritual, having a practice for bringing those things in balance into my life. So, we were talking about the duality, right? We all also have these elements that we express. So the first element is air, and that is the element of the east. That is, it's really the way I think about air is I think about the brain, and I think about all of the ways in which I think, all of the ways in which I'm inspired, bringing me mental clarity, bringing me strategy, bringing me intelligence. I need to think. I need to be able to pull on this cosmic knowledge. I call on air to do that. And so, the danger of being in too much air is somebody who gets too in their head and they can't feel anything. They just overthink things and they're critical. So then you have fire, which is the element of the south. That is your solar plexus. That's sort of this element of passion, this element of strength and purpose and courageousness. This is, a lot of times when people are not able to what we call speak their truth, that comes from the fire element. Sometimes for me, it takes me getting really mad in order for me to step up for myself. I can be in ridiculous situations, at the store, and I'm being ignored, and I'm being, and I put up with it, and I'm nice, and I'm nice, and I'm nice. And then finally I get angry and I say something, and they're like, oh, well, why didn't you just say so? I have to bring my fire in, to be like, hey, help me out with this. And we have our water, which is the element of the west. That's the sacral. That is the divine flow. So anytime you are thinking about water, we're thinking about the flow, and it can get overwhelming, right? Water can be a tsunami. It can be all of these things, or it can also be deeply relaxing. It can be creative. It can be trusting. It's these deep emotions, this purification, this adaptability of life. Those are the things that we want to bring water in for. One of the ways I can use this to give you an example is in the workplace. You can see people, or at least I have, where they're in their deep emotions about something. They really want this thing that they're advocating for. They feel really, really strongly about it. And the person who's in there too much in their air, they can't. They're just being too critical. They're overthinking it, and they can't see through the emotion. And the person with too much emotion actually stresses them out. And so one of the ways in which can be really balancing is to get grounded. That's what witchcraft did for me. If you look at my birth chart, anytime you do an astrological chart, most of them will have some sort of explanation of how many of your planets are in air, in fire, in water, in earth. Mine, I have a ton in air, I have a ton in fire, and a ton in water, and I have very few in earth, like maybe one or two. And so when I started incorporating this and bringing that balance and bringing that groundedness into my practice, that's when a lot of things in my life began to transform, because I was able to do them in balance. So the earth element is from the north. That is your communication. That is that's actually more the air. It's more the communication of safety, is what I want to say, that connection. And so when you imagine a newborn baby and that feeling that you have holding them, right? It's that feeling of feeling like you are being held like a baby, being safe, being connected. And when we say rooted, that's the feeling. Earth is a rooting type of thing. So I'm rooted into the planet, which means that I'm safe. Does that make sense? So, what I'd like to do in terms of our embodiment here is to take you through, have you close your eyes. And I'm going to take you through what in witchcraft we would call calling in the quarters before you start any of your rituals. And so this can be done in, like I said, a million different ways. I'm going to just give you one example where I like to call them in before I meditate, before I start my work, before I do anything. It's a reminder of bringing my elements, bringing myself into balance. So if you'll join me, please close your eyes. Take those 4 deep breaths in. Hold. Release your 4. Hold. And breathe in your 4. And continue this breath work as we call in the elements. Today we call on the element of the east. We call on air. We call on Master Tehote. Thank you for bringing in your inspiration. Thank you for bringing in the right thoughts. Thank you for bringing in our creativity. Thank you for bringing in our divine nature today. Thank you for helping us to create. We call on the element of the south. We call on fire. We call on the goddess Pele. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for bringing purpose. Thank you for bringing strength in our words, strength in our ability to advocate for ourselves, and strength in standing up for ourselves. Thank you for burning through us today. We call on the elements of the west. We call on the goddess Yemoya, the goddess of all that flows. Thank you for bringing in our divine flow. Thank you for helping us flow with our emotions, to understand the deep undercurrents of everything that is happening today. Thank you for flowing through us today. And thank you to the element of the north. Thank you for Earth. Thank you, Mother Earth, for keeping us rooted. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for helping us feel connected in each and every breath. Breathe that out. And then you can come back. And that is just one thing that I do. It's just a simple way, honoring each of the elements, bringing them in, requesting them to be there with you. We don't have to do a big scale spell every day. You don't have to have a big altar. You don't have to do all of those things. It can be something just as simple. Now, of course, I'd love to be able to help you, do some of these other things, bring some of these things into your life. But no matter what, when you're bringing them in, however you choose to be inspired by this workshop, start simple. Anytime we make a big change and we overdo it, it tends to go by the wayside. So maybe pick one thing to incorporate and do that for a couple weeks before you do anything else. Second, get your friends and family involved. Hey, would anybody be open to maybe doing a little, morning ritual with me, coming out? My kids, for a while when they were younger, they would come out with me. We do a green drink in the morning, get the green drink, go out. Life changes when they're in high school and they're not really wanting to do that. But, it's still something I know that's there in them, and maybe later they'll pick that up again. And maybe just pick one place to start, going along with starting simple. Okay, I'm really struggling the most at work, so I'd like to bring something in at work. Maybe I'll do a ritual, or do a grid, or do something to help me at work. Maybe it's in your relationships. Whatever is really needing your attention, whatever feels the most stressful, that's your spirit's way of saying, hey, I want to work on this, okay? And then don't stress on the steps. Your intention is key. I know I outlined the 5 steps. If you feel called and you say, no matter what work I've ever done in the world, everybody has their own flavor, and that's okay. Your intention is absolutely key. So I hope that this is a short workshop. I wanted to get out my philosophy, my love of ritual and ceremony and bringing magic. All of those things can be easy. They don't have to be overwhelming and they don't have to be scary. Bringing them into your daily life. I would love the opportunity if you felt like you wanted to do a little bit more work with me. I have my website where I have some of my different rituals and different kits that I offer. I have a Facebook community and Instagram. I would love to work with you. But more than anything else, I'm just wishing you a very inspirational and inspired life. Thanks and have a wonderful day.